Hello everyone, very good afternoon. So thank you so much for joining today's workshop. Your participation means a lot to us here at Manage Engine. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vivin Satyan and I am the pre-sales consultant for the AD suite here at Manage Engine. Okay, so now this is going to be the second workshop in our ADManager Plus workshop series. I mean, last Wednesday, same time, we had workshop number one, and we focused more on user provisioning techniques. So we saw how to create user accounts without the help of CSV, without the help of complex native tools like a PowerShell or VB script or toggling between multiple windows. So we, tried to create users in a very simple way with all the attributes in place, and at the same time, the user creation was very effective. So that was for the first workshop, and now for workshop number two, we will be focusing on user account modification. Now, I know that you as administrators modify user account on a regular basis or on a day-to-day basis. So be it a minor modification or be it a mass update, you do it very often. And in order to do such modifications very easily, I am going to show you some tips and tricks or share with you some tips and tricks so that you can manage users effectively using the application. So that would be the core agenda for today's session. And the topic is going to be streamlined management of Active Directory users, Office 365 licenses, and Exchange mailbox. Okay, diving straight into the topics. So we will be seeing how to modify SMTP addresses of users in bulk. Because if you have Exchange servers in your organization, then modifying SMTP addresses is inevitable. So we'll have to modify SMTP addresses whenever the surname of the employees change. So I'm going to show you how to do that effectively. Not only in that case, so you have few other scenarios in which you modify the SMTP addresses for users. Okay, so that's going to be the first topic. And the next thing is auto update of users group membership. So let's say a user gets promoted to another department. So you change the department for the user account in Active Directory. And if you want that attribute change to be as a trigger for the other attribute changes for that user account, you can do so using something called templates, which the ADManager Plus offers. So we are going to discuss a bit about the user modification templates. Okay, so when it comes to decommissioning file servers, you have a need of moving all the home folders from one file server to another. So I'll show you how to do that as well. So it's all about modifying users, and that too in a very simple yet effective manner. Okay, so that's going to be the core of today's discussion. So without any further delay, let me dive right into the application. Okay, so this is ADManager Plus. And for those of you who have a test installation or test labs in your environment, you can very well make use of it and then play with the features as throughout the workshop. Now, for those of you who do not have a test installation, we have created one here and it is hosted online. So you can just have a look at your chat window. I'm going to quickly share the URL as well as the credentials so that you can log into the application and then perform the exercises as we go through this workshop. Okay, so here we go. I would request you to just have a look at your chat windows, and this is going to be the URL. It is http://admp.cloudapp.net. Okay, and the credentials, the username is going to be ADMP, all lowercase, and the password is going to be workshop with W in caps. And the most important of all is whenever you're trying to log into ADManager Plus using the credentials which I've just shared, please make sure that you are selecting ADManager Plus authentication and not the Windows authentication. Okay, so once again, username ADMP, password workshop with W in caps, and log on to is going to be the local authentication, which is ADManager Plus authentication. So let me log in. Okay, So as soon as I log in, as you all know, I will be welcomed by the product dashboard of ADManager Plus. I mean, you might be quite familiar with this. Now we are going to focus only on the ADMGMT tab, which stands for Active Directory Management. And when it comes to managing Active Directory management is basically split into or branches down into three things: creation, modification, and deletion. So last week we focused on creation. Now this week we will be focusing on modifying accounts as well as deleting accounts. So we'll be focusing more on the deprovisioning part when it comes to user objects in Active Directory. Okay. Now as a start, what we would do is we would be creating a test user account now. Now this test account will be used throughout this workshop. So that's going to be the agenda. Now we will be using that user account to perform modifications so that you get a clear picture of the things that we do in this workshop. Okay, so let's start by creating a test user. So I want all of you to click on create single user. So we're just trying to create a mailbox enabled user so that we have the scope of modification widens. Okay, so I'm just going to give this user a name. So John Smith. Okay, so the first name is John and the last name is Smith. As you can see here, the rest of the values got auto-populated. So we saw why this value gets auto-populated and how would you modify the layout and everything in the previous workshop. So I'm not going to deal with that. So I just select the container in which the account is to be created. So I'm just going to create the user account in the employees UK container. And the most important part is setting a password for this user account. So I just go type a password. Okay, so I have now typed a password. The next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this user to a specific department. So let's say the IT department. So you have information and technology right here. So I have added the user to the department. And next comes the most important part, which is we are going to enable a mailbox or create a mailbox for this user account, which is John Smith. Okay, so I click on mailbox enable user because that's what we're going to create. I select the mail server. The next thing is going to be the mail store. So the mail alias and the simple display name are already in place. So I'm not going to touch any of those. And I just hit create. Now the application is trying to talk to the Active Directory as domain controllers and then trying to create a user account. And there we go. We have the user account created. So we have now created a user account with first name John and last name Smith. Now this will be the account that we will be using throughout this workshop, so that you better understand stuff. So let's start with the first exercise, which is we will be modifying the SMTP address of the user John Smith. And this process is going to be the same if you are trying to modify the SMTP address for, let's say, 50 users or even 100 users. Okay, so any mass update also follows the same principle. So I'm just going to show you with one example. Now in this specific case, we are just going to use John Smith as an example. You can follow the same procedure for modifying any number of user accounts in Active Directory. Okay, but before that, we'll just have a look at John Smith's properties and the exchange attributes so that we can, we'll be able to find the difference before and after modification. So in order to view the properties of John Smith, I click on Modify Single User. Now in the Modify Single User section, I'm just going to search for the new user account that we created. So I just type the first name, John, enter. There you go. So you have the user account right here. I'm just trying to view the properties and I'm not trying to modify anything right here. Okay, so I have the first name, last name, everything is in place. Now I want you to have a look at this specific attribute. So I know that you might be familiar with this attribute, which is pre-Windows 2000, and this is otherwise known as the SAM account name. And we are going to use this attribute in order to modify any number of user accounts in Active Directory. For example, if you would like to migrate the mailboxes of 100 users to another database. So all you need to do is just get a CSV file ready with the SAM account name of the users. And what's the speciality of SAM account name? So in Active Directory, we consider SAM account name to be something similar to the fingerprints. So this is going to be the fingerprint attribute when it comes to Active Directory, which means no duplicates. So if you are trying to locate a user based on the SAM account name, you can be sure that it hits the user every time. So it's not going to be a miss. So 100% success can be guaranteed. So there's not going there is no duplicates, or Microsoft does not allow any duplicates when it comes to the SAM account name. So that's the speciality of this attribute, and we are going to use this attribute all throughout this workshop. Okay, so I'm just going to check the exchange attribute right here. So I click on the exchange tab. So I'm just checking the SMTP addresses. Okay, there you go. So the SMTP address is John Smith at workshop.admanagerplus.com. Now, what we're trying to do is, as the first exercise, we are going to modify the SMTP address of John Smith. So we are going to replace this with two other SMTP addresses, and I'm going to show you how to do this in bulk. Okay, so in order to perform any operation or any mass update, so the first thing that I will have to prepare is a CSV file. So let's start by preparing a CSV file here. Okay, so I'll have to make sure that it can be a notepad, but please make sure that you save the notepad with .csv extension, because if you are going to import a file, please make sure that the format is CSV. Okay, so I have already created a CSV file, and now I'm trying to modify the SMTP address of John Smith. So I just do a double click. And as you can see here, I told you that the attribute that I am going to use in order to locate users in Active Directory is going to be a fingerprint attribute. And in our case, it is going to be the SAM account name. Okay, so I'm going to use the SAM account name of users in order to locate them in Active Directory. So what is the SAM account name of John Smith? And before that, okay, a very important thing. So in our last workshop session, we discussed how to create a CSV file with the right LDAP headers. And some of you who are new to this session, if you have no clue on how to create a CSV file with the right LDAP headers, do not worry, we have everything covered. So in order to get the exact LDAP headers, all you need to do is just click on the help link in the top right corner. So you just click on the help link here. And what are we trying to do? We are trying to build a CSV file, and the header of the CSV file should be in LDAP format, and the attribute that we are going to focus is going to be the SAM account name, or in other words, pre-Windows 2000 name. So I just click on CSV import, create users using CSV, and I have a link which reads list of LDAP attributes supported. Now if I click on that link, now this gives me two columns. So the column on the left is name in Active Directory, and on the right is going to be the headers that I will be using in the CSV file, which is going to be in LDAP format. So if I am going to specify or locate users based on their pre-Windows 2000 name, I cannot specify this as a header in the CSV, because if I am going to talk to my domain controllers, I will have to talk to them in a language that they understand, and they understand only LDAP. And that's the reason why I need to make sure that the header is in LDAP format. Okay, so what is the corresponding LDAP attribute for pre-Windows 2000? It's SAM account name. So it's case sensitive, so you better copy and paste it in the CSV file as the header. So I have already done that, SAM account name. And the next thing is the attribute that we are trying to modify. Now the first attribute, SAM account name, is used for locating users, and the next attribute is the attribute that we are trying to modify. And we are trying to modify the SMTP address, and once again I cannot just go ahead and type SMTP here and then try to modify the SMTP address of users, because my domain controllers do not understand SMTP. So I need to specify the LDAP attribute or the LDAP header. So the LDAP header that I am going to use is proxy addresses. Okay, so below which I will be specifying the value. Now what are we trying to do here? We are trying to modify the SMTP address of John Smith. So I am going to include a primary SMTP as well as a secondary SMTP. So I want you to have a close look at this specific moment of time, because we are going to specify a primary SMTP as well as a secondary SMTP. So this is going to be the primary. I'm just going to name it as J Smith at workshop.com, and then for the secondary SMTP, John at workshopuser.com. So as you might have noticed, if I am going to specify the primary SMTP of address for user accounts, I need to make sure that they are capitalized. So the SMTP in caps means it is going to be the primary SMTP address for your user account. If it's going to be in lowercase, which is small SMTP, then it's going to be the secondary SMTP address. Now we are all done. So if you have, let's say, 10 user accounts for whom you'd like to modify the SMTP address, all you need to do is just go ahead and specify the values one below the other. That's it. And make sure that you have the SAM account name of the user as well as the proxy address that you're going to update. Okay, so I now save the file. And where do I go to import the file that we have just created? So I go to ADMGMT, which stands for Active Directory Management. So any management action that I'd like to perform in Active Directory, I need to click on this tab and then go to a section. So we have a CSV file now, and what are we trying to do? We are trying to modify users. So I just click on the modify users link. So in the modify users link, I click on import, I hit choose file, and this is the CSV file that we just created, and let's try importing it. Okay, now it's trying to import the CSV file. Okay, there you go. So you have John Smith and the proxy addresses that we populated. So let's go ahead and hit update in AD. Now once again, I want you to observe something here as soon as I click on update in AD. So update in AD. So I have 4 checkboxes here. The first set is for select attributes to be modified. Now what are we trying to modify? Is it the SAM account name? No. We are trying to modify the proxy addresses of users. And what is the match criteria? So are we going to use the proxy addresses to locate users? No. We are going to use the fingerprint attribute. So this will be the attribute that will be used to locate users, and this is the one that we're going to modify. And we have something called advanced options. Now let's see what it does. Advanced options. Okay, now if I would like to overwrite values in Active Directory, I simply uncheck the box. Now if I have it checked, which means that's going to be an append operation. Okay, so I'd like to overwrite values this time. So I'm just going to hit OK. So now the modification is taking place in the backend, and it is successfully updated. Okay, so before that, I'd like to have a look at the CSV file. So the primary SMTP is going to be jsmith@workshop.com, and the secondary SMTP is john@workshopuser.com. So let's see whether the modification has taken effect in Active Directory. Okay, because this is a mass update. So let's assume that we have updated, let's say 20 user accounts or 200 user accounts for that matter. So we have you can complete the task in within a matter of few seconds. So that's the best part of using this application. So let's just go ahead and verify whether the modification has taken effect. So I just go to AD management again. I click on modify single user. I'm just trying to view the properties here, not modify anything. So I search for John. So John Smith. I click on modify user. Now the attribute that we modified would be under the exchange tab, so I click on exchange, and we modify the primary as well as the secondary SMTP address. So let's see. Perfect. So the primary SMTP address is set, and also the secondary SMTP address is set as well. So which means our modification is 100% success. Okay, so now we have modified users in bulk. That is, we have updated the SMTP address for users in bulk. Now, if you feel that manually typing the proxy addresses for the user accounts in a CSV file is going to be a bit complex, so you'd like to keep it simple, is there any other option by which we can set SMTP address for user accounts in Active Directory? The answer is yes, you can do that. So the next task or the next exercise is just that. So what we're going to do is we are going to make the CSV file even more simpler. So for that, I'm just going to remove the proxy address attribute from the CSV. I'm just going to use the SAM account name, the same attribute, the same LDAP attribute, and below which I have just the SAM account name for the user account. Okay, and nothing else. So whenever you have proxy addresses, where you go to import the CSV file is you go to modify users section in order to import the CSV file. But now you have a CSV file without proxy address, just the SAM account name. But you have a requirement of updating the SMTP address. Now where do you import this file? So I save. I have a section under AD management which is modify SMTP address. Now I just click on modify SMTP address, and once again we'll try to update the SMTP address for users, the primary and secondary. So mailbox enabled users, I click on add. So as I mentioned earlier, if it's in caps, which means it is going to be the primary SMTP address. Now the SMTP address that I'm going to set now is first name dot last name at domain.com. But if I am going to do this operation for 100 users, I cannot manually type the values for all the 100 accounts. It's going to be time consuming. So is there any easier way of doing it? Yes. And this is how you do it. Percentage given name percentage dot, because I need a dot in between the first and the last name, percentage SN percentage at workshop. I'm just going to give this as workshoptest.com. So the SMTP address would be something like this: john.smith at workshoptest.com. So that would be the primary. And if I'd like to add a secondary SMTP address, I click on add more or add more formats. And then I type the same thing here, which is given name and then dot sn at test.com. So I just hit OK. So now we have defined the format for the primary and the secondary SMTP address. Now the only task that is left is we'll have to import the CSV file that we have already prepared. And the CSV file just has the SAM account name of the user account. So choose file. You have the file right here. Open and you hit go. Okay, so I'm just, if you have, let's say, 20 accounts, you do a check all and then you hit apply. Okay, so this is how you modify the SMTP addresses of users in bulk. So with proxy address or without proxy address in the CSV file. Successfully modified. Let's just go ahead and verify it. So I go to AD management. I go to modify single user. Again, John. Okay, so I click on the Exchange tab. I'm just trying to verify the SMTP address, that's it. Okay, there you go. So we have now defined. Now, as you might have noticed, so the second operation that we tried is an append operation, and it is not an overwrite. And that's why you have multiple secondary SMTP addresses here. Okay, if it's an overwrite, you would only have these two values, the primary and the secondary, that's it, and no multiple secondaries. Okay, so this is how you modify the SMTP addresses. So we have two methods for modifying the SMTP addresses of users in bulk. Okay, now some of you might not have Exchange in your organization. Now, how is going to ADManager Plus help those of you who do not have Exchange? Is there any other feature that you can benefit from? Yes, you have these many options that you can benefit from. And what you need as an input is just a CSV file with the SAM account name. Okay, now the first task is, let's say that you are going to change the naming attributes for your user accounts in Active Directory. So let's say you already have 1,000 user accounts, and one user has a naming format something like first name dot last name at domain.com, whereas the second user has something like first name dot middle initial dot last name at domain.com. Now, you as an administrator would love to have uniformity in the naming formats of your user accounts. Now, this option right here is going to do exactly that. So help you maintain uniformity among all the accounts in Active Directory. Or in case your organization merges with another organization, there arises a need for standardizing naming formats. So you can very well use this option. Now let's just click on this and see what are the options available. So I just click on naming attributes, and I will be able to define the display name format for your user, for my user accounts, the full name, logon name formats, and also the SAM account name. So again, we are going to use John Smith here. Okay, now I want a specific format to be displayed for all my user accounts in the organization. So I want the display name to be something like first initial, last name. So I can just go ahead and create my own format by clicking on the link here. I've already done that. So I just click on the drop down here, and I've created a format which is first initial and last name. So you can pick and choose any of these formats that suits your requirement. Okay, so I'm just going to stick with this format, first initial and last name, and I'm going to choose the same for all the other naming attributes as well. Okay, now the process is the same. Importing the CSV file is just the same. So you click on CSV import, you choose, you have the CSV right here, and you hit go. So the minute you hit go, all you need to do is, if you have multiple accounts, as I said earlier, just do a check all and then hit apply. So once you hit apply, the user attributes or the value or the naming attribute will be modified accordingly. So that's the best part here. So let's just go ahead and have a look whether the modification has taken effect. So the format that we had applied is first initial and last name. So the format should be something like this. If the name of the user is John Smith, the display name should be something like J Smith. Okay, and the same has to be the logon and also the SAM account name. So let's just verify that. So once again, in order to verify that, I need to click on modify single user. So I'm going to search for John again. Okay, I click on modify user. Perfect. So you have it right here. So now the logon name is modified. So this user is no longer John Smith. So the logon name of this user is going to be jsmith at domain.com. And we have modified the SAM account name, the full name, and the display name as well. Now you can perform the same process, or you can follow the same process in order to modify any number of accounts. So be it, let's say, standardizing the entire organization, yes, you can do that. Okay, now what if you are not interested in, or you do not have the time to create a CSV file with the SAM account name of the user account, but you have a requirement of modifying the naming attributes? Is there any option for me to generate the list automatically? Yes, we have an option for that too. So you click on naming attributes. Now instead of you manually importing a CSV file, you can just type the name of the accounts one by one. Or if you are planning to modify the naming attributes for all the user accounts, or if you're planning to perform any operation in bulk, all you need to do is just click on search. Now once you click on search, now this is going to give you the list of all users in the entire Active Directory organization. Okay, so once you have the list, so I have close to 63 users for this test installation, and if I'd like to modify or apply this format for all the 63 accounts, all I need to do is just do a check all and then hit apply. Okay, so the option is going to be very simple here. So you can modify the naming attributes for user accounts within a matter of clicks. So that's how effective the application is. So that's just one example. And the next one is we were talking about decommissioning file servers and moving home folders from one server to another. So the process is the same. So you click on move home folders, and what you do is you already have a CSV file ready. So the CSV file is right here. So with one CSV file and with one attribute, you can manage any action in Active Directory. So if you'd like to move the home folders from one file server to another, you just specify the target location here. And the same holds good for moving the profile path of users. You specify the target location. You also have an option to retain a copy in the original location. And from where do you import a CSV file? You click on CSV import, you choose file. We already have a CSV file in place. You hit go. That's it. You can move the home folders for users in bulk. And for you Exchange administrators, some of you might be thinking about upgrading to the latest version of Exchange, let's say Exchange 2016. And if you would like to migrate the user's mailbox from 2010 to 16, instead of you manually creating scripts or writing scripts, PowerShell or VBA scripts, in order to achieve the action, all you need to do is just perform a couple of clicks and then perform the migration successfully. How do you do that? You have an option right here. You have something called migrate mailbox. So you click on migrate mailbox here. You specify the target Exchange server and also the target mailbox database, and all you need to do is just import the CSV file. Do you need to modify anything in the CSV file or add anything in the CSV file? Not at all. Only this header would do the trick, because this is going to be a powerful attribute when it comes to Active Directory or when it comes to locating users in Active Directory. Okay, so this is how you migrate mailboxes from one version to another. I mean, from one Exchange server to another, okay, after an upgrade. So that's the second use case, I mean the third use case. And let's talk something about account deprovisioning. So you as administrators have to deal with employees leaving the organization, because whenever employees leave the organization, there arises a need for following a deprovisioning procedure, just to make sure that you abide by the compliance sketch in place. Okay. Now, as part of the security activity, the first thing you do is, if any account or if any employee leaves the organization, the first thing you do is you remove the users from all the security groups that the user was a part of or was a member of. So in order to do that, you just click on group attributes. Okay, so you go to group attributes and you can remove the user from selected groups or completely wipe out the group membership of the terminated account. So you select the checkbox and you import the same CSV file containing the SAM account name. You hit go and you will be wiping out the group membership of all the terminated accounts. Okay, very simple process but very powerful. Okay. And the next step in deprovisioning is, let's say you have the same CSV file with you, and after 10 or 15 days from removing the user from all security groups, if you'd like to disable the account, all you need to do is just click on enable and disable. Click on the link and import the same CSV file after choosing the option from the drop down, enable or disable or setting account expiry or whatever it is. Import the same CSV and then hit go. So you have now passed the second stage of deprovisioning. And the third stage is deleting accounts. Do you have an option for that? You have it right below, delete users. You click on delete users, you import the same CSV file, you hit go, get the user accounts deleted from Active Directory completely, along with your mailbox and stuff. Okay, now wait a minute. Now, if you have deleted some of the user accounts accidentally, is there a way by which you can restore those back to Active Directory? Yes, the application also allows you to do that. Okay, so any accidental deletion can be restored. So you have something called restore deleted users. You can very well use the same CSV file, import it, and then restore the users back in Active Directory. I would request you to note something here. So if your domain function level is something about 2008 R2 or something equal to that, you will be able to perform 100% restore with all the attributes of the user accounts. But if your domain functional level is below 2008 R2, then you would still be able to restore the user accounts, but the only thing is it's only going to restore with the mandatory attributes. Okay, so that's the limitation that Microsoft has in place, and we follow the same. So you'll have to, in order to get the complete properties as such, you'll have to make sure that the recycle bin feature is enabled, and this feature is available from Windows Server 2008 R2 onwards. Okay, so the next thing is we are going to talk about user modification templates. So we are nearing the end of today's workshop session here. So this is going to be the last but one topic, which is user modification using templates. So what does a template do? Now the template is basically in place in order to ease an administrator's work. Let's talk an example, or let's talk about a use case here. If a user is going to be promoted from one department to another, okay, there arises a need to set the group properties or any attribute properties that are appropriate for that department. And in order to standardize the process of modifying users, whenever you're modifying them, you can make use of the template. So now what I'm going to do now is, let's assume that John Smith is promoted to the IT team, okay, or is moved to the IT department. Now, based on the department, I am going to define certain attributes for that user account, for that specific user account. So let me create a template here. So I'm just going to name this as IT department template. Okay, and we have something called modification rules. So this is going to be the logic based on which the attributes will be modified. So I'm just going to define the logic right here. So modification rules, I'm just going to create a new rule. So create new rule, and I'm going to click on add conditions. Now the condition that I am going to specify is, if the department is, let's say, information and technology, then I want the user to be member of, let's say, 5 groups. And what are those 5 groups? I can define it by clicking on the symbol here. So I just click on the pencil sign, and then I select the 5 groups. So let's say assert public. So I just go with a random selection here. Okay, so I have close to 6 groups. I hit OK. Not only that, I would like to set the manager attribute for this specific user account, or for any user who's going to be using this template. Okay, so add, and I'm going to set the manager attribute here. Set manager. If the department is information technology, set the group membership as defined, and if the department is IT, then set the manager attribute to, okay, so this is going to give you the list of all user accounts. You can just go ahead and pick and choose the user. So I'm just going to choose admin IT UK. So I've now defined the manager attribute as well. So I just click on add, and I'm going to change the description for this user account. So description to IT department user. Okay, so now we have made 3 modifications. So if the department is X, change member of, change manager, and then change the description. I'm now going to save the template, and let's see how this works. Okay, so now I'm going to use this template in order to modify John Smith, the test account that we were using. Okay, so I go to AD management, and then I click on modify user. The user account that we're trying to modify is John Smith. I search for John. Oops. Okay, any reason why John is not getting listed? Because we just changed the SAM account name of John. So it is no longer John, it is no longer John Smith. So the SAM account name is going to be J Smith. So I should be searching for J Smith. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to modify John Smith's account. So I just click on modify user. So let's assume that this user is now moved to the IT team, and I'd like to set all the properties required for an IT user. Okay, so I have it defined in the template right here. I'm just going to apply this template and let's see how it goes. Okay, so IT department template, before which I need to make sure that the department attribute is already modified, because that's the attribute that is going to trigger the action. So I just verified, so I click on the contact tab. Okay, the department is information technology, the user is moved. So we are all good now. We're just going to apply the template. So IT department template, and I hit OK. Now all the values that we have defined in the template are being populated. I'm just going to have a quick preview here. I just click on preview. Okay, so now this template is going to modify the manager attribute. So the existing value is null, and the new value, the member of, and the description. I hit update user in Active Directory. That's it. So now we have modified the user account. So all we did is we just imported a simple template which we have already built. And this process, this section of ADManager Plus allows you to create any number of templates that you want. Maybe you can create one template for every department that you have in your organization. That will be anywhere close to 10 or 12 templates. But that's going to be a one-time creation. Now, if you have templates created in your organization, whenever you are trying to modify users, you can simply load the template and then modify the user accounts. As simple as that. And the template has something else to offer, which is going to be very interesting. So if you as administrators, if you are going to delegate this template to someone else and you don't want them to manipulate certain attributes within the template, how do you remove this from the layout? You just click on enable drag and drop, and let's assume that you are planning to remove the exchange tab entirely. So just click on the X sign and you delete the tab from the layout. And this is the same for any attribute in the layout as well. So if you don't want the web page to be displayed in the layout, you delete it. So the deleted attributes will be placed in the field tray in the left hand side, and if you want them back, just drag and then drop it to the layout. Okay, so this is how you remove attributes or remove an entire tab from the layout. As simple as that. So the last thing is finding out inactive users in Office 365 and then managing their licenses. So if you have Office 365 in your organization, and let's say you have purchased the license for 2000 user accounts, out of which only 800 are going to be active users and 200 are inactive, and you have another 300 users who are willing to use the license, but they do not have, but you do not have sufficient license count. So how would you remove licenses from inactive users and assign it to the appropriate users? Is we have a report within ADManager Plus. So if you just go to the reports tab, the last category is going to be Office 365 reports. So we have a report named inactive users. Okay, you can very well generate the report, get the list of inactive users in your organization for the last 30, 60, 90, or for any custom period that you choose. Now once you have this list, you can use that, and what you can do is you can go to Office 365 Management under the ADMGMT tab and then click on Assign or Remove Licenses. Once you are in the Assign Remove Licenses section, you can simply replace licenses, remove all licenses, or remove selected licenses as well. So you can perform all such operations. So this is going to be a very powerful tool, and this is how the application is going to help you in order to manage stuff in Active Directory. So a quick recap about the topics that we saw in today's workshop. So we saw how to modify SMTP address of user accounts in bulk using the application, and we also saw how to perform any management action, and that too with a simple header, with a simple LDAP header. So this attribute is going to help you perform any management action in Active Directory when it comes to modification. And with that, I conclude this session. Now, once again, thank you very much for participating. And if at all, if you have any questions or if you'd like to access the video of today's session, this will be available in a day or two. And if at all, if you have any questions, you are most welcome to get in touch with us. And the next workshop is on Wednesday, same time, and we are going to focus on a different topic. So we'll be talking about Active Directory task delegation and how do you securely delegate tasks in Active Directory. So that's going to be the topic for the next workshop. So talk to you soon, and thank you so much for joining. You all have a nice evening.